live.
Okay, we saw yesterday. A Mishnah on Lamed Vav Amid Beis that the Chachamim they made takonis in three venues: one shvus, two rishus, and three mitzvah. A shvus has nothing to do with the mitzvah: climbing a tree, riding an animal. Nothing to do with a mitzvah. Yet they said you can't do this on Yantif because you may come to do something. In this case, to cut a tree, you may come to disattach something. Riding a horse, you may come to go ahead and whip something. So that was that we said the shvus had nothing whatsoever to do with a mitzvah. Then we said in addition there was you can't go ahead and dance, clap, dap. We said maybe you're going to be talking cliche. So we're up to Elei Mishum Rishus. Now the Rishus again has to have a shaykhus to the mitzvah, guys, right? Rishus has to have shaykhus to the mitzvah. So we're Lamed Vav Amid Beis, 3 lines to the bottom of Elei Mishum Rishus. Loi Danan, you can't judge, right? Loi Danan, you're not able to judge. You're not able to judge on Yantif, the Kal V'Chaim Shabbos. You can't judge. Mitzvah kavid. You're doing a mitzvah for a mitzvah kavid. There is somebody else. In other words, you're not the only game in town. There's someone who's other from him. Now, what happens if there's someone not other from him? We'll see Tosfos in a minute. Okay. So Memela, it doesn't have to be you. It's not a mitzvah kavid. Memela, you can't, and we'll see why you can't judge. V'loy mikachin, you can't go ahead and get married. You can't get married on Shabbos or Yantif. For her mitzvah kavid, l'chayr pashtus guys, you're doing a mitzvah by getting married to be mekayim the mitzvah of pirivivya. So it's more like tzricha the is be mishum islay ishu banim. He's married. He's married already. He has wife. He has children. Rashi brings. He was mekayim the mitzvah according to Beis Shammai, 2 males. According to Beis Hillel, male and female. But he's mekayim the mitzvah already. So therefore, he wasn't. There's no mitzvah. So why can't we do it? We'll see in a second. You can't do chalitza. Again, we're headed to March, and in March we're going to get to our favorite Masechta in Shas, Yivamis. There's Hashem Yisbarach, right? What? No, sorry, but that's the make or break. That's the make or break point. That's when you guys turn the corner and you're going to say, "I did it," and then we'll have a siyum. So chalitza again, a man dies, no children. His wife falls to the brother-in-law, and he refuses to yibum. So you can't give chalitza on Shabbos or Yontif. You do yibum on Shabbos or Yontif. Freding of a mitzvah ka'avid. So why can't you do it? It's there's an older brother. Mitzvah begadol yabe. Okay, and there's a mitzvah begadol yabe, so it's not upon you. It says more of a kulei time of mai. Gezeira shema yichtayv. And all of them, what's the reason? Maybe you may come to go ahead and write down something. You write the shtar chalitza, you write the shtar erison, all these things that involves writing. Look at Rashi, guys. It says Rashi, Shemi Yichtayv, Psak din ledinim. When it comes to the din, you're going to write it down the psak. Ushtar erison when it comes to the kedushin. V'shtar chalitza lechoa it says. U'tuva liyavama. So all these, the reasons why that the Chachamim said these were shus, that have shaykhs to a mitzvah, but that's not mamish the mitzvah. The reason you can't do them is because you may come to go write something. Good. Now let's say a guy wasn't married. Let's say he wasn't married. What's the din? Now there's a famous shittas at Tosfos over here. Let's just take a look at Tosfos. The last Tosfos on the page on the Amid Beis for mitzvah ka'avid, and he brings in Pirish Rashi. Go look at Rabbeinu Tam where lines get wide, goes down 3 lines down. This is a chiddush Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam Pirish. The ha mitzvah kavid my gazru. So why did it make a gezerah not to do it? Umishani leitzricha this lay ishu banim. Aval im ein lay ishu banim mutal lekadesh. To get married on Shabbos or Yontif, the mitzvah kavid because you're doing a mitzvah. And then Tosfos tries and how could you do it? It's a kinyan. How can you make a kinyan? But this is the shittas Rabbeinu Tam. So there's a fascinating tshuva. I didn't bring the book, but I did put it online. You know what? I should send it out. Let me see. Let's fool around for a minute to see if I can find it. Okay.
So what do you say?
Yeah. Oh, guys, you can see this. Now you can't. Now you could. Okay, I'm going to send this out to you. The Gemara asked the Kasha. How could you go ahead and say you can't get married, right? How come you can't get married? In fact, if getting married is a mitzvah, if getting married is a mitzvah, so if getting married is a mitzvah, why would the Chacham go keneged a mitzvah? Why would they go keneged a mitzvah? What's the reason they would go keneged a mitzvah, right? So the Gemara answers, well, in fact, it's not a mitzvah. Why is it not a mitzvah? Because you already were married and you had children. So now, what happens if you're not married and you don't have children? What in that case, what's the din? If you don't marry, you don't have children, what would the din be over there? Would there be a din of would you be able to get married? Because it's a mitzvah. Says Ben Tamiyah, you would. Says Ben, and now we know it's not like that. But I'm sending you out. You look at your phones. I just sent you out a tshuva from the Ramah. This fascinating tshuva from Ramah. Okay, it says v'loy mikachin v'ha mitzvah, but he brings in Rashi, and then with tshuvas haramah, go down, guys, about I don't know, go down about 11, 12 lines. With tshuvas haramah, simin kuf chaf hey huva uvda ba'av sheshilech bitoy. He was meshadech his daughter, v'holach lo'lamai, and he went to the next world. He died. Nishari Yisoima Galmuda, Nebech, she was mainly Yisoima, who Krevel Ha'elimu Einehem Imena, and the Kraven were, they hid the rice from her, they didn't help her out. V'doid Echad Ichnisa Lebeisai, one uncle took her in the house, Ukasher Gias Mana Chasuna, Pita Yasa Hashchenim, Shetkina Atzma, V'titval, V'ftiach Lakiyya in the dunya. They said, go ahead, get ready for the Chasana, there'll be a dowry, don't worry, there'll be a dowry. So it's Erev Shabbos, and they promised the dowry, right? V'zman achasna hoya b'erev Shabbos ukasher natu tzlolei erev, and it began nightfall. The kisei akalib hinuma, and the kalib was covered a face with a veil, right? V'hoya nechsam yan dunya oid shlish, and they were missing a third of the dowry that was promised to the chassan. Nasa chatois and merivos, began a whole katotos and merivos. They began fighting.
They wouldn't have been married yet. Don't you wait to get married?
So they began. There was a quarrel that broke out, right? Now, he moved away. The chassan was going to do away with this because he wasn't getting his money. And the fight, it continued until after it was already Shabbos. It was already Shabbos. Shalom, and they made Shalom. Now, what did we say? Ein Mikachin Shabbos. The Sida Haramah Kedushin, and the Ramah made the Kedushin Kadesh Lo Yevayish HaYisayma, that the Yisayma shouldn't be embarrassed. Shehi Misyare Shem Yimtena Shahaya Misyare. He was worried. Shem Yimtenu at Mitzvah Shabbos Yispatel HaShalom. The Shalom would be what? Forgotten. For Hoyim Aranim Alav Sha'ar Aladin, and they were yelling at the Ramah, you even the din. They Mikachin Vu Birisham Shesamech Al Rabbeinu Tam. He was Samech Al Rabbeinu Tam. The B'doichit Gadol Muta. Right? And we saw Rabbeinu Tam. So in other words, Yeshal Mal Lismach. In other words, it's so important to know, even though others try Rabbeinu Tam, thought you had Lismach to go ahead and marry you off to Sisaima. I thought it was a thing. So he continues to the end, guys, and he says, in the end, there's a minute in Krakow, they used to get married. They used to get married every Shabbos, guys. They used to get married every Shabbos, right? Not in Krakow. After this Maisa, they didn't get married. Yeah, after this Maisa, finish it off. He finishes it off the tshuva there. He finishes it off. He says that, and I just have to make it. I can't even get it over here. I have to get it. I don't know.
What was the rationale of Rabbeinu Tam?
Rationale, Rabbeinu Tam makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
Right, Rabbeinu Tam makes a lot of sense, right? Rabbeinu Tam made a lot of sense, guys, right? He says that the whole reason, Fred Akasha, you're doing a mitzvah, so why you're not doing a mitzvah? And in a Hechatim, so you are doing a mitzvah. So you should be able to get married. And that was the reason for time.
In my case, if they don't do the mitzvah, like shofar, lulav, you have to have al so
Sadik, that's Shev al Tasa, but here to do it.
Doing.
Right?
We're doing.
Okay, you're doing the mitzvah.
We're just from it.
What?
We're doing it.
It's Shir mitzvah ba'alacha.
It's also doing the mitzvah.
Yeah, so again, is that
Why?
I mean, you go to a bucky and different things. There's a reason. There can be oikum in a tire, but I'm saying over here, there's no. What's the reason over here? In other words, when I want to say you're calling it a rishus, why are you being oikum a mitzvah? There has to be a reason behind it.
Because maybe it's a there, maybe you're afraid you'll be writing.
Yeah, exactly. But for mitzvah kavid, meaning if there was a mitzvah mamish, that's not enough a reason to mivato. It's only we're calling it a rishus. You're not calling it a mitzvah. The kasher is, why are you calling it a rishus? You should call it a mitzvah. We're going to have in the second, the third madrega. We have a shvus, riding a horse, climbing a tree. We have a rishus, which means we said yesterday, there's a shmek of a mitzvah. It has a shaka, but it's not a mitzvah. Fred the Gemara, what do you mean it's a shmek of a mitzvah? It is a mitzvah. So we have to think, well, it's a rishus. Why is it a rishus? Because you makayim the mitzvah already. Now we're going to have a third madrega of mamish mitzvah. So that's the kasha.
But getting married itself, that is the mitzvah because it's only a hefsek to be able to the kind period for it.
Yeah. So it's a mitzvah for you to get married. There's a mitzvah to get married. In other words, since you can't, there's a mitzvah kind period for rivya, and you only can't be a mitzvah to get married. It's a mitzvah to get married. Mitzvah to get married. So that's the kasha. The kasha is when it says a mitzvah kavid. This is the third. You said three things. You said shvus, rishus, mitzvah. You're calling it rishus. You should call it a mitzvah. And for the Gemara, you can't call it a mitzvah. That you got to know. Yeah, good. So no, you're asking a kasha stamazoi. You see the amavatl mitzvahs. That's not the kasha. That mitzvah. The kasha is why are you calling it a yes. Okay. Now says the Gemara, the Elohim mishum mitzvah, and these that you can't do because of a mitzvah. Loy makdishin, you can't make something kodesh. Loy marichin, you can't say erche alive. You can say lashon of erchin, depending on a person's gender or age. There's a set amount that you have to give to the Beis Hamikdash. But loy machrimim, no, if you say cherim to the Beis Hamikdash, now all of these is gezei mishum mekel chumemka. Guys, what's mekel chumemka? When it goes from one rishus to another rishus. In all these cases, it's going from your rishus to hegdish. So therefore, but this is called a mitzvah. Okay. You cannot go ahead and separate Trumas Maisvis. It's thick in mana. It's thick in mana. We had earlier on Daf Yomi Beitzah on the days that you're not able to do it. So when it says Pshiti, you're not able to do it. So Rabbi Yosef, in other words, I only need to tell me that you can't separate to give it the koyin boy by yoim. That's only Paris from yesterday. Says the Gemara. That says Rashi over here. Guys, look at this Rashi. Why does it mean that what's the Chiddush? By giving it to the Kohen, it clearly maybe you're being misamech the Kohen. So look at Rashi. Rashi has a beautiful pshat here. Says Rashi. You're supposed to tell me what Rashi is. I feel a little Mekayim by Bayayin. The Ikal and Meimar, Lav Mucha Milsahi, the Litkune Tivla Mechavan. In other words, if I go ahead and give it to the Kohen, it's not so clear that I wanted it for myself. Why guys? Why can't you separate Shumas and Meiser on Yontif or Shabbos? It's Tikimana. In other words, you're finishing. It's Makav Patish, yeah. So if I give it to the Kohen, it's not so clear that I did it for myself. Good. People don't know that he needs the leftovers. They'll see him bringing truma the kayin. And maybe the whole thing appears why you want to misamech the kayin. Who needs it? So that's the svara. In other words, Fred the Marakasha Pshita, you can't go ahead and separate Shumas and Ma'isa. We already saw in the Masechta Ein Zakai Bar Masan Daf Yomi Beitzah and Beis Machlokes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, and he said you can't be Zeicha to go ahead. Says, well, I'll tell you why. You're sending it to the Kohen. People won't know that you're doing it for yourself. They're going to think the Kohen needs food. You're doing it for the Kohen. Kamash Malon, then even if it's Alpha Pekin, you can't do it. Kamash Malon, Alpha Pekin, you can do it. Now, there's an adjoinder to that. V'hani mili peri the tefillah mietmo. That's something you should have done the day before. Erev Yontif, you had the time, the capability of going ahead and separating Trumas and Meiser. Avla peri the tefillah idna, something that became tevel then. Are you allowed to bake on Yontif? It's therefore, you allowed to make dough on Yontif? Could you have taken challah off before Erev Yontif? Absolutely not. So therefore, in that hechatimsa where you shaft and created the chiyuv right then and there, kigoin isa, kigoin, for example, flat, dough, lafushe mina chalim ifrashinon, you could separate it. V'yavina l'koyin, you give it a koyin. V'hani, Fred the Gemara now. V'hani mishum rishus ikka mishum shvus leka. V'hani mishum mitzvus ikka mishum shvus leka. We have three cases, 1, 2, and 3. So you want to say that what? That they're all separate. What are you talking about? They're all interrelated. Says Rashi. I'm soyikoy. It's going in the middle case of Rishus. The Ka'amar Elohim Mishum Rishus. These are all Rishus. And why do we say, guys? You can't be Mekadesh and Isha. You're right. You can't judge. You can't judge. V'chi Eimem Mishum Shvus. V'haloi Asrum Kidarminon. Kol Shechayim Alav. They asked it. Alma kula la surah, right? V'hani basroi mishum mitzvah ikebas yasai, or mishum shvus leka la asra b'Shabbos bitmiyah. In other words, just because there's a mitzvah, there's no reason not to ask them. Why not? V'yasurim, they're all asa. Guys, one's asa mishum meka chamemka, one's asa shema what yichtov. So what do you mean? Call it what you want. They're all asa shvus. They're all asa shvus in order to shavas, in order to go ahead and rest. So good, there's a shmek of a mitzvah by Rishus, and good, there's a full mitzvah by mitzvah in your Mekach Marichin, Marichin. But who cares? The bottom line is they're all reason why to stay away from doing an Issa Malacha. So how can you tell me there's no shvus involved in Rishus and no shvus involved in mitzvah? That's the Gemara's kasha. Umishum shvus lekal asur b'Shabbos b'Miyah. Guys, lashon. V'li asurim v'hechi palginu tana demastisan debekamoi ad keshvus. That's the kasha. Elohim, guys, look at me. Elohim sheyachayim mishum shvus, number 1. Ve'elohim mishum rishus, number 2. Elohim mishum mitzvah, number 3. Mashum, when he said shvus number 1, there was no shvus by number 2 and no shvus by number 3. But of course there was. What does shvus mean, guys? What does shvus mean? Let me show you what shvus means. Look at Rashi in the Mishnah. Rashi in our Mishnah. Ve'eluhain. Eluhain, in mamish smack in the middle of the Mishnah Rashi. Ve'eluhain dvarim shasurim mishum shvus shehetilu olav chachamim lishvois mehem ve'ein basiyasan shemitzvah shehetilu chachamim lishvois mehem. That's the lashon of shvus, to refrain from doing it. So there's a refrain by rishus and there's a refrain by mitzvah. So why do you only call the first one shvus? They're all shvus. How are we doing? Okay. That's because of the other two. Because like Fuke Meya, the case of Rishus, where there's a shtickle mitzvah and mitzvah. That's why this is going back on case number 1. That's why I said that. But the point that I'm trying to make is, you see, shvus, the lish voice. That's what shvus means, lish voice. We all ain't shvus b'migdash, right? Ain't shvus Shabbos. Ain't shvus l'shvus. We say shvus all the time. But what does it mean? It means lish voice. Good. So now it's geschmack. That's the case. In all cases, there's an union of shvus. So why do you only call the first one shvus? Why don't you call the other ones as well? Back in the Gemara. It says in the Gemara, V'hani mishum rishus ikka mishum shvus leka. Number 2 and number 3. V'hani mishum mitzvah ikka mishum shvus leka. Guys, yeah, shvus by all of them. So Rabbi Yitzchak, loy mi boy kama. The Mishnah says, you don't need to tell me. Loy mi boy shvus greg dasa, but there's no mitzvah the asar to ride a horse, to us to go climb a tree. Elafilu shvus the rishus, even a shvus of a rishus. In other words, the taka does go on that. Even a shvus of a rishus to mekadesh and isha, to judge. Nami asa. Let me buy shvus the rishus the asar. Elafilu shvus the mitzvah of mekadishim marichin, right? Ma'achrimin. Nami asa. That's also asa. So the shvus is not only limited to case 1. It's like it's 1B, 1, 2, and 1, 3. So it's going to go over. Kol elu b'yontif amru. So guys, what did the Mishnah say? Kol elu b'yontif amru. Kavachayim b'Shabbos. Ein ben Yontif l'Shabbos el oichel nefesh bilvad. Mamish, guys, there's no only difference in Shabbos and Yontif is oichel nefesh. Good. That's what it says. Now, urimino, this was stira. Mashilin derech aruba b'Yontif avalei b'Shabbos. You just told me that there's no difference between Shabbos and Yontif except oichel nefesh, right? I just told you another difference. The previous Mishnah, where you have fruit on a roof and it's raining and it's going to get ruined, on Shabbos you have to leave it there. Yontif you don't. So you see what? There is a difference between Shabbos and Yontif, not just oichel nefesh. Amar Rabbi Yosef leKasha, ha Rabbi Eliezer, ha Rabbi Yeshua. Now, obviously, the case in our Mishnah, right? That the latter part of the Mishnah where it says that they're worried about you taking a monetary loss. The one that says that Shilin Paris Ella Yontif and not Shabbos says we don't care if you take a monetary loss because we're letting at Shabbos we're letting your fruit get wet. Good. So one is Rebbe Eliezer and one is Rebbe Yeshua. Now let's see the Tanya. You know there's halacha like this, guys. You can't shechta a parent and a child on the same day. You have a parent and a child in a bar. You're hungry. It's Yontif. You pick one up, right? Can you pick up the other one, or you have to leave it down there? Right? Because you can't shech them both, right? Maybe. What's the harama? Oh, so that's Rabbi Yeshua's opinion. So says the Gemara. Said, right? They Bilabar, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Mala Esa Rishoin, Almanas l'Sheichtoi. You bring up the first one, whichever one, on the condition to shecht it. The Sheichtoi, and you shecht it. Vasheni, and the one that's in the pit, Oisalei Parnasim Komo, just feed it. Kadesh Layom is that it shouldn't die. Rabbi Yeshua Omer, Rabbi Yeshua says, Mala Esa Rishoin, you bring up the first one, Almanas l'Sheichtoi. Then the Sheichtoi say, nah, yeah, maybe it's too thin. Maybe I get a little more steaks out of the other one. If you want to do this one and you could do this one. You want to do this one, you can do this one. Now, why does this have to do with anything? What does this have to do with anything? What does this have to do with our Mishnah saying that one is Rebbe Eliezer, one's Rebbe Yeshua? Now, the sefer of our Mishnah that said Ein ben Yontif l'Shabbos, that all shvus that were goes on Shabbos goes on Yontif. Even hefsid money, that's Rabbi Eliezer, who didn't permit you to take it out. He didn't care about it, right? He didn't care about the hefsid. Rabbi Yeshua cared about the hefsid. So, in answer to the stira, what's that stira? On one hand, we say there's no difference in Shabbos and Yontif, meaning hefsid money, we don't care. And meaning we're not going to let you go ahead and lower it from the roof. Shabbos you can't, and Yontif you can't either. We got a Mishnah that says you can lower it from the roof and you're going to take a monetary loss. That Mishnah says you can load it from the roof and you take a monetary loss. That's Rabbi Yeshua, who allows you to go ahead and make a harama to take both animals out of the pit. So you shouldn't take a monetary loss. Whereas Rabbi Eliezer, who doesn't care, says leave one in the pit. You'll take up the other one. Doesn't care about a monetary loss. He's the one who says Ein bein Shabbos liyantif. I feel what? I feel only oichel nefesh because he doesn't make a. He says there's no waiver for a hefsid mammon by yontif either. So that's the teretz. Now the Gemara is going to go about and saying this it's no raya. The Gemara is going to say it's no raya. We're good. I think we have to get Modi Fogel in here. Modi Fogel. My kids asked me, what's number one tier one predator in New York? I said a hawk. So they said Modi Fogel. Okay. Anyway. Only Abaya, Mimai. Says Abaya, how do you know this is a good sushtel? Dilma, I'd kind of like come Rebbe Eliezer Hassam over there, that he doesn't worry, that he doesn't care about a monetary loss, Ella de Efshabar Panasa, because you can go ahead and feed it. Aval Hacha, if you're going to leave it on the roof and it's going to get wet and ruined, the Le'efshab Panasa Lai. Maybe he would say that maybe you could go ahead and lower it. You can make a trick. Maybe you would say you can't lower it on Shabbos. So you have no raya that to answer the stira that way. So we're back with the same stira. One says that there's no chiluk between Shabbos and Yontif. I feel in hefsid mammon, and the other one says no by hefsid mammon. There is you lower it down. Elamra papale kasha. I'm Mishnah. Beishamahi. Our Mishnah that says there's no chilik, we don't worry about hefsed mammon, that's Beis Shammai. And how Beis Hillel. Now, we had this early in the Masechta, guys. Beis Shammai does not hold the mitoich. He does not hold the mitoich, right? We say mitoich hutzrich shelitzarich, hutzrich shelitzarich. That's why we do a lot of malacha on Yontif, even though it's nothing to do with Eichel Nefesh. Whereas Beis Shammai was very, very limited. He said, you don't say mitoich. He said, you can't carry your kid, you can't carry your shofar, you can't carry anything. Why? Because it has nothing to do with Eichel Nefesh, there's no mitoich. So therefore, the same thing, Ein Ben Shabbos V'Yontif, there's no difference, correct? Says Gemara. Ha Beis Shammai, ha Beis Hillel. Nine. Beis Shammai, I remember, Ein Mitzian, you can't carry Leis a cotton, Leis a lulav, Leis a sefer Torah, Rosh Hashanah, Ubeis Hillel ma tirim. And he would go ahead and he would say it's mutter. So therefore, since it's mutter to carry the kid, it's mutter to lower it through the skylight. Whereas Beis Shammai, he doesn't say mitoich, he would not let you lower it through the skylight. He says, Ein Ben Shabbos V'Yontif Velovat, Oichel Nefesh Bavad, and he takes it literally, Oichel Nefesh, right? Mamish Oichel Nefesh. Dilmaloi, he says, no, maybe it's no raya. I'd kind of come Beis Shammai Chasim saw that you can't carry a child. Aval tilt the loy, maybe he would let you go ahead and lower it from the skylight. So, and for the Gemara, what are you talking about? Every tiltle is the purpose of every heitzah is you have to first pick up to take out. So of course it is connected, and that exactly is the teretz. Says Rashi, the chilas heitzah they tiltle at the beginning of carrying out is through moving something. The chol mashigazu and elim mishum heitzah. The whole issue of muktzah guys who shouldn't come to carry. The reason we're not gozer on kalim v'oichlim is because then people can't go ahead. Tzibur can't go ahead and keep it. Levatul oinik Shabbos with simchas yontif because you can't do it out. Okay, so it comes out. We have a steer in the Mishnah. You can't lower kalim because of you can't lower pairs because of spot of hefsed mammon. Ayin b'Shabbos le'yontif, Shabbos le'yontif only Eichel Nefesh, meaning you can't. Hefsed mammon doesn't count. That one is according to Beis Shammai, and our Mishnah says you can lower. That's according to Beis Hillel. Okay, there's a halacha of tchumim. Going back to Erev tchumim. Okay, your midpoint over here. Let's say I'm midpoint over here. I got 2,000 amas to Benji, 2,000 amas to Ari. I can carry on Shabbos 2,000 amas in that direction, 2,000 amas in that direction, 2,000 amas to Heshi, 2,000 amas to the wall. I'm dead set. Good. What happens if I want to go to Dove? Dove is 4,000 amas away. I want to go to Dove. So what do? I make an Erev over there. We're at the 2,000 amma mark. That gives me another 2,000 amas. But again, I lose it over here. I got nothing over here. Let's say this is north and I'm traveling south. I got nothing. I lost that. Whatever, whatever you do, you're borrowing. You're not going ahead making more than. No, I have 4,000 amas, 2,000 here, 2,000 here. But if I want to shift it over 4,000 here, I can. But you get nothing over there. That was the halachas of Erev Tchumim. Now, Tchumim goes according Bein Hashmashos, very much. Where your koine shvisa, wherever we said, wherever your residence is, I have to get that meal. Muslim Shtei Suda at that 2,000 amma mark. I got to get it, make sure it's there Bein Hashmashos. If it's there Bein Hashmashos, I'm koine shvisa over there, and then I can extend beyond. Because that's a very, very basic chazara of Erev Tchumim. Habehema va'kelim kiragli habaylim. There is a din of tchumim by behema, and there's a din of tchum by kalim. In other words, they also are limited to tchum. What's the limitation? To their owner. To their owner. Whatever the owner makes, that's the limitation. He gives his behema to his son or to a roya. It goes according to him. It doesn't go according. If they made other directions, they made another eruvim. It doesn't make a difference. It goes according to him, not according to them. Kalim hamyuchadim leechad min ha'achim. You have brothers, and you have kalim that are miyached specifically to one brother. Hamyuchad leechad min ha'achim shebebayis hari'el kiraglov. That's so double pasha, right? We said three cases that the kalim go after the owner. If you, even by a roa and a son, it goes after the owner. And if it's sons and he has ownership of something, whatever he has ownership of is limited to his tchum. However, u'she'em yuchadim, let's say they're not miyuchid, meaning it's owned by all the brothers. Hari elu kimokam shecholchem. So it's going to be limited to the places where everyone can go. In other words, let's say we're brothers, and you made an Erev in that direction, 4,000 amas, I won't be able, no brother will be able to go over here because we're limited over here. Conversely, he won't be able to go 4,000 because our Erev is over here. So basically, your Erev is deciding, your personal Erev is deciding the status of these Kalim Behema, and it's going to be limited to what? To what is acceptable by all you can go. So again, if I'm one of the brothers and I made an Erev 4,000, I can't carry 4,000. None of you can carry. You would be limited to that area because of my extension over here, and I would be limited to your area that way. So you're all stuck. Yeah. Look at Rashi. Says Rashi. Usheim yuchadim, about 7 lines, 8 lines up. Usheim yuchadim lechem mehem elul kulan. It's not specifically to one brother, but to all of the brothers. Hari elu kimakim sheholchem. It's like the place where they all can go. L'makim shekulim yecholim leilech. Mutter lahoylech es hakelim. To the place where universally they all can go, that's where you can carry the kalim. Avalim irav echa mehem l'seif al payim litzafin. One of the brothers made 2,000 amas to the north. V'hashar lo yivruhu. And the rest did not. Hu ma'akev al yodam, he would stop them melohichichem ledoram, from being able to walk to the south. Afilu psia achas. You know why? Guys, because his shvus is, since he used up all his direction in one direction to the north, right? They who did make it would be limited to him. And since he can't walk anywhere in the south, because he used to extended everything that way, since he can't walk in the south, they can't walk in the south. They can't walk in the south. And guess what? He can't go 4,000 amas over there. Why? Because they only went 2,000 amas over there. And it continues on. And they, the brothers, would stop him. You only go the 2,000 at them mutter. Okay, so one more time, guys. Look at me. Look at me. It's posh. It's posh. It's very posh. Let's say I'm a single guy. So I go ahead, I take Ari, we just shift him over here. I lose everything over there. I can go 4,000 amas over there. Good? Or vice versa. Yeah? Vice versa. Hesh is my brother. I go ahead, I make an Erev, I'm 4,000 there. Hesh kept his Erev 2,000, 2,000. Good? What's the halacha? Where can we carry this? Okay, so watch. We can't carry it in that direction anywhere. Anywhere. Why? Because of my chelik in it. Right. We could carry it, what? 2,000 amas in that direction. Why? Because of your bilus. And I have 4,000 in that direction. That's what you can do. Okay, that's what Rashi said. Yeah, it's never good. Okay. Next case. Hashoyel. Someone borrows a kli from his friend, may erev yontif, and even if it's delivered on yontif, kiragle hashoyel, it goes to the regal of the shoyel of the one who borrowed. So if I borrow from Benji or from Hesh, it becomes mine. The tchum is mine. The tchum is mine. Yeah. Hashoyel kli mechaver me erev yontif, kiragle hashoyel. The yontif, however, if he borrows it on yontif, if I would borrow from Heshi on yontif, kiragli amashil, it would be like Heshi, because bein hashmashis, it was in his rishus. In other words, shvisa has to be bein hashmashis. Good. If I borrow it on Friday, even if it's delivered on Shabbos, I would be able to walk my. Why? Because I borrowed it on Friday, and bein hashmashos, it was mine. However, if I borrow it on Shabbos proper, it would be subject to the shoyel of the one who lent it to me. Shoyel being the borrower, mashal being the lender. It makes sense. So again, hashoyel kli mechaver me'erev yontif, kiragli hashoyel, because bein hashmashos, it was in his rishus. The yontif kiragli amashal, because bein hashmashos, it was in the lender's rishus. V'cheina isha shesholom chaverta, a woman who borrows from a friend tavlin umayim umelach leisasa. So let's get straight. What does the shoyel have? The shoyel has the pot to cook in and the dough she's making. What does the lender have? The mayim, the tavlin, and the melach that she lent to her. Good. Hari elu kiragle shtehem. So now it comes out. They both have ownership over here. In the Isa, you have the shoyel owning the bread, but you have the mashal's tavlin inside of it. So you'd have the same problem as the brothers, b'miyachid. Guys, one more time. Brothers, that if they all have ownership, we said it's subject to everyone's tchum. So the woman over here, the object you have here, there's a shutfis in over here. You have dough. In that dough is the shoyel, the borrow is flour, and in there is the mashal's spices, the lender's spices. The pot that you put the spices in to cook belongs to the borrower. The lender gave the spices. So since they have a mutual ownership, it will be subject to the tchum of all of them. A gift?
The common tchum of all of them?
I don't think it will make a difference because Erev is in Harishus. Again, I don't know if I'm saying it doesn't make any sense that it should be because it wasn't hers. It wasn't hers ben hashmashas. Yeah. Yes, Rabbi.
You meant the common tchum of both of them, like the overlap. You said the tchum of both.
They'd be limited to the common.
The common.
Yes. Rabbi Yehuda fight by Mayim for the Shem Mamish. Rabbi Yehuda says by Mayim you pata because there's no mamashas to water. So there's no mamashas to water, that would be ownership. So notice if the lender only lent water, that would not affect the tchum would only be the borrowers. Masnisan our Mishnah Amid Beis the Loik Reb Daisa. Again, what did our Mishnah say? Our Mishnah said if you give it to the roya, if you give it to the shepherd, it goes after the raglam, right? Reprieve. Look at that. You ever think that can be so happy to learn? Guys, listen, Kishmak. We said in the Mishnah that if you give it to the roya or his son, it goes after him. It goes after karagle of the owner. That's what we said. That point of contention says the Mishnah is not like Reb Daisa. Ditnan Reb Daisa Omer, V'milo Abba Shol Omer, Halakech behemoth mechaveroi me'erev yontif. Someone buys a behemoth from a center of yontif. Af b'shlei masroi. Even give it to him, it'll be yontif only yontif itself. Are you correct on lekech? Again, ben hashmashas it belonged to lekech. It wasn't his rishus, but he had ownership of it. V'amaisa behemoth leroya, and someone gives here's the problem. V'amaisa behemoth leroya, someone gives an animal to a roya. Af b'shlei masroi el b'yontif. Even only gives an yontif. Are you karagli a roya? 1 second. You told me if you give it to a roya, it's like ragli bao. Guys, that's the word. That's the word that's problematic. Here it says if you give it to the roya, it's the roya. Our Mishnah says if you give it to the roya, it's the bao. So therefore, it must be our Mishnah is not like Reb Daisa. And if you want to feel it, Reb Daisa, our Mishnah is like Reb Daisa. Like Kash, it's not a problem. Kan be roya echad. Kan the Brisa is speaking. There's only one roya. He's the only game in town, and our Mishnah is b'shnei royim. Let's see Rashi, guys. Top line. Kan be roya echad. She'ein be'ir el roya echad. In the city, there's only one shepherd. He's got a monopoly. Kol b'nei ir ma'midim me'masam b'shusai. All people of the city, they keep their behemoths in his rishus. V'niknish shvisasai, and the animal acquires his shvisa. Hilkach bein moicha bein lekeach, whether it's a sale or whether it's the seller or the buyer. Daitoi shlei tikna behemoth shvisasai etzloi. Since he's the only game in town, it's understood that the shvisa will be based upon the jurisdiction of the shepherd. Umasnisa, however, our Mishnah where it says it belongs to the owner is b'shnei royim. It's speaking about there are two shepherds. The lo yadinin lahayminayu havile das bailim. You don't know who he wants it by. Hilkach harehen karaglei bailim im eina etzla royim eboydayin. If it's not by the Royim by Yom, it goes by, but it goes on Yontif. Says this is a very geschmack, guys. So here the Chilik. Our Mishnah that said that it goes to the Baal is speaking there two Royim, and the Bryce that says it goes to the Roya, there's only one. Because why? It's a non Sahade that he wanted it in the Rishus of the Roya, even though he delivered it to on Yontif. Nonetheless, it was understood he was the only game in town, and he's watching it. Our Mishnah Deka is also Dekanami Diktani Libinoi Oil Roya. So you don't know who he's giving it to, guys. Our Mishnah Shnei Royim. You can give it to the son, you can give it to the Roya. So why do you learn that Roya Shmamina? Then in Achanami, that teretz is a good teretz. That teretz is a good teretz. In other words, so if it's the only game in town, even if he goes on Yontif, it wouldn't be going after the owner, it would go after the Roya. Amar Rabbi Rav Chana Rav Yochanan Allah Rav Daisa. The halacha is in conjunction of Rav Daisa that if you give it to the Roya, it goes to the Roya. Guys, we had this all the time in Shas. Rabbi Yochanan says the halacha is like an anonymous Mishnah. Our Mishnah is an anonymous Mishnah, and our Mishnah says it goes according to the owner, not according to the Roya. So how can Rabbi Yochanan say the halacha is like the Roya? It says like the right. V'tnan abahim v'akelim karagli abahilim, right? For the Gemara. So a lot. I think there's Myra upstairs. I think. Yeah, go upstairs. All of a sudden the kids aren't so bad, huh? Well,
They're not really kids though.
The kids. Says the Gemara. The lav ukimna kan beroya echad kan b'shnei royim. Guys, al stimmt. The halacha is like Reb Daisa by one roya, and the halacha is like a Stam Mishnah. You know why a Stam Mishnah says it goes after the owner? Because there's two royim. There's the son and there's the roya. So you know who he's giving to. So al stimmt, it all goes ahead and matches up. Tarabanan. Shnayim shesholu cholak echad b'shutfis. Two people borrow cholak echad b'shutfis, and they each have, guys, different shvisa. They each have a different shvisa. They each have a different chum. This person can wear it shachus to the base of medrash. And this guy can wear it ma'ariv to the base of mishnah. Okay, so one makes an erev to the north and one makes to the south. 4,001, 4,000 the other. He's limited to what? The jurisdiction of, again, this is the same halacha, intermingled. Again, you're limited to what? To the mutual area, right? I think the matzu, and if it's exactly, they used it up both, you can't move it all. If they, I think I have it somewhere. No, do I have this somewhere? No. Oh, this is not good. I'm gonna. If you look at the art scroll, guys, if you look at the art scroll, right, you have over here, this guy went 4,000 amas. He gave up his east. He gave up his west. They can't move it all, right? You guys, they can't move it all. You see that each one gave it up. They're stuck. They can't move it all. Okay. I don't know why I needed that, but I did.
I know.
Okay. The matzu as a tchum, if they end up in the middle, then they can't move it. Itmar. Shnayim shalochu chavies. Two people, they buy a barrel of food, wine, ubehema, and they buy a behema to shecht. Bishutafais. They buy it in partnership. Now, they have different tchumim, right? So the question is each one limited to each other's tchum, or do we say breira, and each one, when you get your object, it's huvra dava, that this was yours, ben hashmashos, and you could take it wherever you want to. So now, Rav Amar Chavias Muteres, Rav says the barrel is muta when you divide it up, ubehema, and the meat asura. Ushmul Amar Chavias Nami asura. They're both asa. So guys, what's the case? Guys, you buy bishutfis, me and Hesh have different tchumim. We buy food together in a barrel, and we buy an animal that we shecht, and now we have meat. Says Rav, each one of us can take the food wherever we want to. However, the meat would be usher to take outside the common tchum. And Shmuel says no, everything's usher. Shmuel says everything's usher. What is this machlokes contingent upon? We're going to say it's contingent upon breira. Again, we were familiar with the sugya of breira many times already. Breira is the idea that my action later on can define something retroactively. So, why do we say, whichever place I take to, the food that I got, that was my food all along when I was kind of shvisa, right? And that's Hesh's food all along was kind of shvisa. The problem is, if Rav holds yesh breira, and therefore you could take the food, why doesn't he hold by the meat? Shmuel holds ein breira, so there's no chilik between meat and food. You can't go ahead and take it. But according to Rav, that's the problem. So says the Gemara. My kasava Rav, what does Rav hold? I kasava yesh breira, I feel behemoth tishtri, meat of the animal also you should be able to take it into your own tchum. I kasava ein breira, I feel chavis nami asura. After Gemara olam kasava yesh breira. V'shanya behema the koyonke tchuma mehadadi. It's a very, very funny Rashi, guys. It's very to explain this. It's very interesting. I want to see it inside. It's really, really interesting. I want to get your the second word line down. Yanki tchuma chelke habehema sheruyin l'shtei tchumim. The chalakim of the behema, which were roy for both tchumim. List right? No, that's not the one I want. It's the first wide line, guys. The shiny behema, first wide line. Shahoyse b'chayeha ben hashmashos. It was alive ben hashmashos. The chol eivereha b'chayeha, and all the evarim when you were alive, yonkim zeh mizeh. They literally were being nurtured one from the other. Umeshechashecha yonik kol ever ve'ever mishal chaveroi. Each one is being nurtured by the opposite of his friend, mine and Hesh. The ein kan livrar. It's not possible to go ahead and discern, which I don't understand. Prayer is a hypothetical thing, but bein hashmashos, each one is being yonik, and then they spread out, so it's not possible livrar. That's what it's saying. Okay, so now one more time, let's see it inside. Lo'olam mikasav is yesh breira, Rav, and since you're yesh breira, you can go ahead and separate the food into each one's respective tchum. Masha'en kain, the food, the meat. What do we say about it? And the meat, Ushanya behema de koyanke tchumim me'adadi. The tchumim, Heshis tchumim, my tchum, bein hashmashos were intermingled in this animal. The efshel livra. That's what Rashi says. Only Rav Kahana Ravasi. 1 second, L'Rav. L'Rav le'issa muktzah lo'chashashu. Le'issa tchumim chashashu. Rav was not worried about the issa of muktzah, and he was worried about the issawad of. And he was worried about the issawad of tchumim. In other words, guys, look at me. Look at me. Is Heshi stuff muktzah to me?
Yeah.
Of course. I'm a katzadas, it's not mine. Is my stuff also on Hesh?
Yeah.
But you say by food, can we go ahead what? And go our merry way, and we say breira?
Mm-hmm.
So if you say breira, we say linyan muktzah, there's no problem, right? Breira also you should say. And if you don't have a breira problem, you have a muktzah problem. How do you discern the two? That's the kasha. Shasik Rav remains silent. My Havila, what's the bottom line? Why does Rav allow you to go ahead, take the food and not the meat? And Shmuel doesn't like either one. Rabbi Shama yesh breira. Rabbi says the bottom line is yesh breira, and you can take both. You can take side the meat and even the meat. Rabbi Yochanan ain breira. Rabbi Yochanan says ain breira. You can't even take what? You can't even take the barrel. Okay, we'll stop over here because it's a sugya arucha. That's Hashem. Tomorrow's share will be probably in the afternoon.